Hello chess friends and welcome to Azarov's chess channel and welcome to my series playing d4. So in this series we are searching for best lines, best variations while playing as white. First move d4 of course, and in the previous videos we have covered this Slav Defense, the chameleon variation. Today we're continuing with the Slav Defense with the so-called 3 knights variation and with this common move bishop on f5 that's played by black. And with this bishop on f5 we'll start sort of a mini series in which black tries to develop his light square bishop in the Slav Defense. You'll see that black has many troubles in order to develop this light square bishop, and we want to get use of this positional disadvantage. And in this mini series I'm going to show you how you can really punish your opponent because of this early development of this light square bishop in the opening. So as said, we have the 3 knights variation, and there are this positional possibilities here for white. As said, with d5 and c6 and bishop on f5 or maybe bishop on g4. Well, black is trying always to build sort of a fortress on light squares, and as said, in this mini series I'm going to show you all of this best lines. I think from my perspective I've played it many times, and I think you can really apply the system because also they are easy to memorize, and I think they are very effective. So let's see what's all about this 3 knight variation and this bishop on f5 output. So d4 here by white, d5, c4, c6. This is now the Slav defense, knight on f3, knight on f6, and now knight on c3. And now comes this move bishop on f5. And black's idea here is of course to play the move e6 and really build sort of a fortress on maybe if we play something like e3, then here queen e6 can be played. But now if we try queen on b6, we can back and try maybe queen on b3. If we take out here, black has a very nice pawn structure here on the queen side, has the control of the e4 square, has a good open file for the rook. So this is something that you should really avoid in these types of variations. So as said, after bishop on f5 I recommend you to go c takes d5. Really undermine a little bit black's progress on this light squares. Here black can try maybe knight on d5 or c takes d5. So we are covering all of both of this possible continuations for black, and the first is this knight on d5. So the instructive game that I wanted to show you, it's a game played by Gideon Stahlberg against Virgilio Fenoglio, and here now I recommend you to go queen on b3, because after queen takes on b6 we have now the possibility to take knight takes on d5, queen takes on b3 is the possible continuation. Now knight on c7 with a check, king on d7, and now a takes b3, king takes on c7, and now of course bishop on f4. And the position is a little bit simplified without the queens on the board, but we have the possibilities always. Our main goal here is to play the move e4. You see we have a very nice diagonal for the bishop, and after this e3 or e4 move we would have also a very nice diagonal for the light square bishop. So black's king is a little bit under fire here. We are simply faster in the development. So here we have also now this a file open, so it's also sort of a strategical advantage here in the continuation of the game. So you see in this previous example that I show you, which you should avoid, black had the advantage of this semi-open a file. Now it's our advantage, although we have now this two double pawns. It's really playable here. So here in the continuation black tried knight on c8, and now knight on d2, which is the preparation of course to play the move e4, and we are protecting also this pawn on b3, which is very important. E6, and now comes this move e4. We have bishop on g6, bishop on d3, simply developing move, bishop on b4, and now king on e2. And this king on e2 is always possible, this connection of the rook. So we have finished now all our development, but you don't have worries here with the king in the center, because the queens are off the board, and they're not so much tactical. There are not so many tactical possibilities here in the continuation of the game. Here king on e2, and now bishop takes on d2, and now king takes on d2, knight on d7, and now rook from h to c1. And our main goal is also here to create fix the position with the move f3. Here knight on f6 was played, and now f3. You see, we have built a really nice and healthy pawn structure in the center. Still we have the bishop pair, still we have some semi-open files for the rook, so this is, I think, a perfect development here for white. Here king on d7 was played. Now b4. We want to somehow open the position here. We want to create open files, open diagonals, because we are playing with the bishop pair, and of course the bishops like this open position. So that's why a6, black is trying to create sort of a blockade, and now g4, again with the idea just to crack open somehow the position here. Rook on c8 was played, and now h4, h5, okay, g5. Now we have knight on e8, and now bishop on e5, which is also a tricky move. We want really black to play this move f6, just in order to create sort of a dynamic pawn structure, which the bishops also like. Here f6, and now bishop on h2. We have f takes g5, and now h takes g5, and now we have accomplished our goal. Here now we have the possibilities to play f4, and still we are continuing the game with 4 connected pawns in the center. We have created really a pawn storm here. From black's perspective, black has of course the advantage of this 3-on-2 situation on the queen side, but you see we have paralyzed this pawn structure, because black cannot play the move c5 or a5 just in order to make the position active on the queen side. So that's why rook on f8, and now of course king on e3. The king is very well placed here. You see, it's almost an endgame here, so that's why you should play with your king as an active piece, not something that you have to defend. Here king on e3, again with the preparation maybe to play the move f4. Bishop on f7 was played, rook on c5, fixing the position, so really restricting black's ability to play here. Black doesn't have counterplay at all here. g6 was played to try to really fix the position, but now bishop on a6, very tricky move here by Gideon Stahlberg. Of course b takes a6 was played, and now rook takes on a6. You see, black was really paralyzed with his pawns, with his pieces. The pieces are all on the 8th rank. Still we have this monster diagonal for the bishop, so this rook sacrifice was a correct bishop sacrifice on a6 was a correct one. Now the rook comes actively into the game. So knight on d6 was played, and now rook on a7 with the check, rook on c7 protecting the king, and now rook takes, king takes, and now very strong move b5. So of course you cannot take with the pawn, you cannot take with the knight, and in the next move you lose the pawn here on c6. So king on d7 was played, now b takes c6, and now king on e7. Now finally b4, rook on c8, and now b5. We have fixed now 2 pawns. In the next move we can maybe play b6 and connect these 2 pawns on the 6th rank, and when you have the 2 pawns connected on the 6th rank, it could be really deadly for your opponent. So knight takes on b5. Black is trying now to simplify the position, continue the game with this opposite colored bishop situations. But now rook takes on b5, rook takes on c6, rook on b7 with the check, king on f8, bishop on e5 comes of course with an attack. We have also the possibility to fix the bishop here on f6, and the bishop will be basically unchallengeable here on this very active square. Rook on c2 was played. Now bishop on d6 with the check, king on g7, rook on b8, bishop on g8 was played. Now bishop on f8, king on h8, and now rook on b7, rook on c3. It's a check, but not a problem, of course. King on d2 with the counter attack, rook takes on f3, and now bishop on g7, king on h7, and now bishop on f6. And in this position, black resigned because you're forced to give up your bishop. Here we can take, and in the continuation we can take also this pawn. So of course this is now completely winning endgame here for white. So you see, this was this important moment here. C takes d5, now knight takes on d5, and queen on b6. So don't be scared to get double pawns here on b3. Now you have this the in-between check, which is messing up black's possibility to castle. King on d7, and now a takes b3, king on c7, and now bishop on f4, as said, with the continuation knight on d2, and then with the preparation to play the move e4. So let's see now this particular line in which black is trying to play the move c takes d5 instead of knight takes on d5. So the instructive game that I wanted to show you, it's played by Viktor Korchnoi against Mark Ruderfer. Here c takes d5. Again, I'm recommending you to undermine this this fortress that black has built on light squares. So now black can try c takes d5, and again queen on b3. Very important move here, queen on b6, and now you have this check. If queen takes on b3, then you have this in between check, maybe g or e takes f6. Also, let's imagine here g takes f6, and in the next move you can take the queen, you're a pawn up, again with the same ideas, maybe bishop on f4, knight on d2, e4, and similar ideas. So this is this tricky line in this very early stage of the game. So here, that's why after knight on d5, knight takes on d5 was played, and now queen takes on d5. And what black probably thought that he can have a very nice activity with the move here e6, then bishop queen on d2, and now if bishop on b2 is followed, then of course you can simply play bishop on d2. It's not a problem, so you can take out with the knight. Your black is not going to mess up your potential castling. So that's why after queen on b3, knight on c6 was played. And here you should memorize this particular line, because the best move is here the move bishop on d2. Don't play something like e3, because then you get a knight on b4, and that's the problem, because you cannot prevent this knight on c2 outpost. So that's why bishop on d2. And if your opponent takes here with the knight on d4, it's not good, because you can simply takes, and then you have here e3. If something like queen on d5, in order to trade off the queens and simplify the position, you have queen on a4, king on e7 has to be played, and now you can play f3 with the preparation to play the move g4. If your opponent tries something like queen on c6, then you have again bishop on b5, queen on b6 can be played, but now bishop on b4 with a check, king on f6 can be played, and now e4. After bishop on j6, you have now very tricky move, bishop on e5, king takes on e5, and now bishop on c3. Of course, king on d6 has to be played, and now you have simply castling, which is really deadly. Now king on c7 can be played, but now again bishop on e5. If the king comes here, you have first bishop on d7, king on d1 has to be the continuation. So now bishop on e8 with the discovered check. So here king on c8 can be played, and now queen on d2. It's a very nice checkmate here. So you see, the problems of this development of this light square bishop leads always to this possible tactical lines with knight on d2, or and then after that e4, or maybe with this f3 or e4 idea. So here in the continuation, after knight on c6, as said, bishop on d2 was played, and now queen takes on b3, and now a takes b3. Now we have this position in which we have this double pawn situation again, and but we're pawn up, we have the open a file, and basically what we want to do is here somehow to develop this light square bishop. So here bishop on c2 was played in order to grab back the pawn, but here bishop on c3, very important move, because we want to play again with the king on d2 and similar ideas, because it's not about castling anymore. b5 was played, and now e3. We have rook on b8, because if you play something like here b4, then you have bishop on b5 first, so that's why here rook on b8 was the continuation, and now rook on a6 with an attack on the knight. Knight on b4 was played, stopping. This is important move because it stops now black's progress with the move b4. So that's why here rook takes on a7 was played, bishop on b3, and now knight on e5, knight on c2. Here king on d2 was played. It seems that white will lose the piece, but here after b4 we have here a very important move, knight on d7. B takes c3 was played. Now king takes on c3. We have now this attack on the bishop and the knight, and we have also here the attack still on the rook, so the rook has to move, but the rook has to move on the b file, because if the rook moves from the b file, you take out this bishop. So rook on b4 was played, and here knight takes on f8, rook takes on f8, and now bishop on d3. And in this position black resigned, because our threat is of course to take out the knight, and then after that the rook. So the rook has to move here, maybe rook on b8, but now we can simply take, and after takes, we have a position in which white is 2 pawns up and has a completely winning endgame. Here still has a better activity with the rook. So as said, very effective play here by Viktor Korchnoi. So let's see now another example of this semi-Slav defense, of the Slav defense with this 3 knights variation and this bishop on f5 idea. So again, I'm recommending you to take out c takes d5, here c takes d5, and the instructive game that I wanted to show you, it's played by Garry Kasparov against Daniel Hausrat. Queen on b3 again, and here bishop on c8 was black's idea to get back with the bishop defending this b2 pawn, and here bishop on f4. You have to develop your dark square bishop, and then of course the move is e3, and then after that develop the bishop and maybe go castle. So here e6 was played by black, and now e3. Bishop on d6, we have bishop on b5 with a check, knight on c6, and now knight on e5, creating the spinning idea. So that's why bishop on e5 was played, bishop on e5, and now bishop on d7. Here bishop takes on c6, bishop takes on c6, and now very important move, queen on a3. It prevents now black from castling. You see, Garry Kasparov has played this game very actively. It's not really a problem for black to castle, to go somewhere with the king. So that's why queen on e7 was the idea, but of course bishop on d6, queen on d7, and now castling by Garry Kasparov. So Garry Kasparov plays simply on the development. He has now secured his king. Rook on d8 was played, bishop on b4, and now b6, which is the idea to maybe play the move a5 and trap the bishop. So that's why queen on b3 was played. Now comes this move a5, but now bishop on a3. We want to stay on this very important diagonal. Now comes b5, and now bishop on c5. Here b4 was played, knight on e2, knight on e4, and now rook from f to c1, bishop on a4 with an attack on the queen, queen on d3, and now bishop on b5. We have queen on d1, queen on d7, and now knight on g3, knight takes on c5, and now rook takes on c5. And you see, it's a symmetrical pawn structure here, so it could be a very nice position if we manage to fix the knight maybe here on e5 or on c5. So this knight outpost on the dark square would be unchallengeable for black here. And here we have also a very nice activity with our own rooks. So basically what we want to do is simply doubling up the rooks and maybe develop somewhere with the queen very actively. So as said, here white has a really better position. Castling was played, rook from a to c1, rook on c8 was played, and now knight on h5 with some tactical ideas, of course, followed by queen on g5, rook takes on c5, rook takes, and now rook on c8. Here, of course, queen on g4. Garry Kasparov uses now this moment in order to create this checkmate threat, so that's why g6 was played, and now queen on g5. You still cannot take, of course, there are some threats now to go maybe knight on f6 and similar ideas with queen on h6. So that's why bishop on e2, now knight on f6 with an attack on the king. Here king on g7 was played, queen on e5 with some discovered attacks possibilities, queen on b8, and now comes the discovered check, double check here with the knight and the queen, knight on e8, king on f8, but now knight on d6, rook takes, and now d takes on c5. King on g8, queen on f6, queen on f8 was played, and now h4. We really want to create now a sort of a fortress here on dark squares. The bishop is a little bit deflected from all of this action. The bishop is aiming into nothing, so a4 here, a3 was played, b takes a3, and now b takes a3. So Garry Kasparov stays with all of his pawns on dark squares because we of course don't want this light square bishop to attack our pawns. Bishop on d3 was played, queen on c3, bishop on e2, and now queen on e5 again, queen on d8, and now c6. Finally making some progress with this pawn. Queen on c7 was played, queen on f4. You cannot take, of course, this pawn, then you lose your f7. So king on f8 was played. Now queen on b4 with that again some discovered attacks possibilities. King on g8, queen on c5, bishop on a6, and now finally a5, h5. Really, we want to make some weaknesses around black's king. G takes h5 was played, and now e4. Simply going straight forward. We have now d4, queen on g5 with a check, king on f8. Here e5 was played, fixing the knight. Again, you cannot take this pawn because you get some annoying checks. Here queen on c6, but now queen on d8. You see king on g7. Now knight on e8 with a check, king on f8, knight on f6 with this discovered check, king on g7, and now queen on g8. And in this position, black resigned because it's a forced checkmate. Okay, let's go back also again. So this is also very important moment here. As said, here my recommendation is to undermine this light square problems here. C takes d5, so black has now the opportunity to take with the knight. We saw that queen on b3 is the idea, so after c takes d5, also this queen on b3 idea in this opening, I think it's something that you should be familiar with and to really continue the game very active. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this video. We'll continue with our battle against the Slav Defense while playing d4, and as said, it will be really a good series in order to get you a better preparation while playing as white. So if you have troubles to play as black, you can also watch my King's Indian videos, and you can also watch my hyper accelerated Dragon Sicilian defense videos, in which I show you very nice effective opening while playing against e4. And you can also subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching, guys, and chess is the best, of course.